So we are going to go ahead and actually step into my base. Okay. So I'm going to keep my head down so I don't spoil too much too soon, because there's an order in which I want to do this. Alright, so... So this is a land where people came from across the ocean. They were forced from their homes and had to trudge, spoilers, across the sea for days and weeks, maybe months, until Our Lady of the Ocean decided to take pity on them. She is kind of a, sort of an ocean deity, so to speak, but she took pity on the poor souls and brought them to this land. So when they first came, they set up a home right here. So this was the very first home that I built. And I built it in a creative world, and I'm actually really quite happy with how it turned out. So it has a little boat dock. And if we go inside, you can see that for my birthday this year, everyone decided that it would be funny to basically cover about half of my base in cakes. And for any of you who don't know, the way that you get rid of cakes is either you have to completely destroy them because you can't pick them back up, or you eat them. So I basically spent the latter half of this, well, the last, probably 4 months or so, eating cake. So, I also have a number of mementos from my time on this server. So I have my very first death, which was to a creeper. I kind of fell down a hole into about 2 or 3 creepers, and after the first one exploded, then there was pretty much no hope left. Let's see. This is my very first dragon egg. I killed my very first dragon on this server. It wasn't nearly as difficult as... Well, no, correction. It was difficult, but I was well prepared. Fortunately, I'd watched a bunch of videos ahead of time and watched people do it, so I was pretty confident going into that. So that's my very first dragon egg. We have a number of other fun things. Not all pigs fly. Basically, that was one of my first attempts at sky shepherding, and if you guys don't know what sky shepherding is, you should probably watch Zenaf and Tango, because they are hilarious and wonderful people, and you will just... I just about died laughing. I can't speak for everyone, but yeah. My first golem from my iron farm. More deaths, and yeah, just more memories. A number of inside jokes. This was a totem of undying that I managed to find. The death that I had just literally the day before the tour, which I can laugh about now. So back to the lore. So after the people managed to build themselves a safe location, they went ahead and made themselves some communal housing. It's a little bit difficult to see from the water. Actually, no, it's not. It's right here. But yeah, I went ahead and made sort of some very simple sort of apartment type building. I didn't do a whole lot with the bottom. I intended to, but I didn't get around to finishing that. I got a staircase going up, and then a number of different rooms. This is going to be kind of a larger room for either a large family or maybe like a meeting room. And then we have like the different homes for people, and the wardrobes to keep their things, and a potted plant just to bring a little life into the room. And yeah, thought I had some... I think I was going to put like a trapdoor in the floor so that way you can actually go down into the water, but maybe I didn't do that. I had lots of plans for things I was going to do that I ended up not getting around to for reasons. Oh, hi little slime! So, once the people had a chance to get this set up as well, they started to build inland, started to get themselves started on their new life in this new world. And this is what they built. They managed to construct another portal so that way they could travel to other lands and have visitors come visit them more easily. They started collecting livestock from all around the world, anything from the various types of llamas to an exotic red cow. And so they built stables for them. And did I mention my penchant for horses and how much I love horses? And horses. I think there's one missing. Interesting. So I built these stables as well. And then, actually, this was another one of the first builds that I did. Yes, it's made out of purple with pink glass. It used to be oak with oak and blue glass, but I may have helped a friend out with a small prank and ended up with this large prank by one of the moderators on the server. Now, in all fairness, she did offer to revert it back to oak, but I was so intrigued by kind of the oddness of it and the color combination that I decided to keep it, and so here it is. And yeah. Anyway, this is my storage area, as you can see. I went ahead and built like different bays to hold the different kinds of items, and as you can see, there are quite a lot of chests with quite a lot of things. These are all like sandstone and sand with a few other like random things thrown in. So I have shulker boxes full of stuff that I never got around to sorting back out, a bunch of empty shulker boxes. I also have a map of the area. So I started building, and then I decided to make a map. And so this is kind of a before shot. It's not like a true what the island looked like ahead of time, but this is what the island looked like maybe like a month or two into the server. This is the storage area and the villager trading hall, which I'll show you very shortly. But then afterwards, as time went on, I went ahead and made a map of the area in sort of an after format. So you can see now this is purple, and there's a lot of other things that have cropped up. This is my list of things that I was going to do, some of which I actually accomplished, and some of which I didn't. So yeah. So then I decided to build this potion shop. I kind of built it around this individual right here. I don't remember. What is your name? Let's find out what your name is. I don't remember. Let's see. How are we going to get in there? Maybe I'll take one of the bars off. Be careful. She can get mad. What's her name? What's her name? Jenny! Oh, it's Jenny! That's right. Nah, she'll be fine. She does that all the time. And I'll be fine too. So yep, so I managed to catch Jenny one night and decided that she would be the perfect addition as basically the shopkeeper. No, Parrot! Stop it! Why must you do these things, parrots? I've been having the weirdest times. You sit, stay. So then I went ahead and came up with storage for all the different types of potions. So I have water breathing and night vision and speed and jump boost and so on and so forth. And then just had the brewing stands around. Had a couple of water sources so that way I could fill up the water bottles if I needed to. And yeah, so not really high tech, but this area isn't known for its redstone, its technology. So then I went ahead and I also made this villager breeder and trading hall. Let's go ahead and stop in here. And I went ahead and used Unitary Bits design once again. I talked about it a little bit when I was doing my 10th episode special. And so I have one villager that's up there that's detecting the village, and then the rest of these guys down here are the ones that are doing all the hard work. I just usually throw carrots down into them and it makes them pretty happy. I mean, they have a good life. They're safe. There's absolutely nothing not to get to them, and they get free food, and they make little villagers down there. Haha. So this ended up being a little bit more cramped than I wanted it to be, but this is my villager trading hall. So as you can see, I went through on a number of these, not all of them, and wrote down what kind of villager they were and what they traded. So this one I actually managed to get Efficiency 5 books for only 34 emeralds, which is, actually a fairly decent trade for that particular book. And then I have blacksmiths and armorsmiths and toolsmiths, and I have a shepherd and a butcher. This is my favorite because he is my mending villager, and he sells mending books for 14 emeralds, which is a fairly decent price. It's not the cheapest that you can get, but it's pretty good. And as you can see, they do make an awful lot of noise, so you either get really annoyed by it, or you just kind of learn to tune it out, and it is what it is. So these are my friends. I spent an awful lot of time with them, and I started putting resources in here so that way I could trade with the different villagers and get emeralds for other things. And I have more down here on the first floor as well. So I am pretty proud of the layout. I like how that turned out as far as the general aesthetic, but it's really cramped in here, and I would have made it a little bit bigger had I thought about it at the time. To go with that, I went ahead and made a melon and pumpkin farm. Same with the last server I was on. This is Ilmango's design. I went ahead and just ended up using different materials, but I still think it fits the base's overall aesthetic as being kind of as having like a watery theme. And yeah, so I went ahead and expanded it so there's actually 1, 2, 3, 6 platforms altogether. There are also a couple of permanent residences of this area. There was a skeleton that jumped in here somehow, and he put a pumpkin on his head, and he stayed ever since. And then all of a sudden I started hearing some zombie sounds, and I had no idea where it was coming from, but it turns out that the zombie decided to come and visit as well. And since he has a pumpkin on his head, he will never be leaving as well. So all the stuff went down here and into a couple of chests, and this ended up being a fairly profitable farm. Oh, stop! Oh, there's my shield! I was wondering where that went. Awesome! Haha! Success! Melon seeds can stay in there. Alright. Yep, so I definitely enjoyed that. Before I start heading in this direction, I want to show you actually a couple other little things. We're gonna go this way. Keeping our head down, because I really don't want to spoil the surprise. So this bridge area was actually I think this was the very first, if not the second thing that I built on this server. When I came here, there was originally this lake, and I decided it would be kind of fun to have this walkway that goes in each of the different directions. And I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. There's like a central gazebo area. I had to make sure that it stayed well lit. But yeah, so it heads off in all the different directions. Now, down here was actually the cave where I first started everything. I found where I wanted to build, and found that this was a convenient location to do so. So I ended up taking out a little bit of area here, but not too much. And so this is where I had all of my different chests and materials to start out with, had some furnaces. And this is actually my very first set of armor here. It's not enchanted, but it served me well when I was first starting out. So back here is where I ended up spending a lot of time, actually. This is my skeleton farm, my AFK skeleton farm. So basically what this allowed me to do is once I... Oh, hi Bubby. I'm holding meat. Once I managed to get these dogs, all I would have to do is stand here, and eventually there was a skeleton spawner back there behind that wall. And so what it would do is it would funnel skeletons into a shaft, which I think is right here, and they go up and over, and eventually they end up landing right here. I have also built this on my Primecraft world, and as you can see, the dogs enjoy going for the skeletons, and then I just stand here and collect the XP and all the sweet loot. So at one point, a couple of my good friends decided to prank me with giving me lapis. So basically they kind of enclosed me in this area right here. I left these lapis bits here as kind of a memory to that. But also they left some signs here because they had a hard time finding their way out, because apparently this cave is really confusing to people. But, you know, it is what it is. I only know it really well because I'm here all the time. So basically the exit is not that way. Angel was here, he was one of those people, and Matthew, and yeah, they just kind of laid some funny signs as they went out. So maybe Angel's dog, Matthew's dog, and yes, they were lost. So they went out that way. And then also over here in a similar setup, I have my zombie farm. So there is a zombie spawner on the other side over there, and it's not AFKable, so I would have to stand here and wait for the zombies to drop, and then their drops would go onto these hoppers that are underneath, and I would be able to collect all of their bits right here. I have my incredibly not fancy chicken farm, and basically the way this works is these chickens are standing on hoppers, and they make eggs. And so what I would do is I would kill these chickens, and then I would take some of the eggs and come up here and end up making more chickens. Come on, more chickens. Aha, all the chickens. Rinse and repeat until I have lots of eggs and meat. Haha. And then I also planted an impromptu chorus fruit farm here. It's nothing that anybody really needs for the most part, and in case anybody hasn't played around with chorus fruit, it's kind of fun but also kind of scary, because if you eat it, it teleports you to a random location within a certain radius, and I don't eat it here because I don't want to accidentally end up inside one of the farms, because that would be awful. I have my Impulse SV Nano Farm, which I was able to get like carrots and potatoes and that kind of stuff with. And then down here, I really enjoyed putting this room together. This is my cow and sheep farm, and I used to have every single one of the different colored sheep, but unfortunately somehow some of them must have grown into the walls and died. So yeah, it is what it is. So I was able to go through and shear the sheep and kind of get a small collection of the ones that I needed. For some reason these ones all survived. I'm not sure what happened. And then I could breed up the cows and use them to get steak and leather. And it was sufficient for my needs. And I got another puppy here. Hi, Sherman. So then if we go up this way, we'll end up back in the storage area. If we go this way, we go to my sugarcane farm. So I basically ended up with 8 small sugarcane farms. I think there's like 6 plants in each row. So yes. Alright, then we go up this ladder. And as you can see, I didn't put a whole lot into the aesthetics of this area because it was going to be underground and it wasn't a huge issue for me. So we come out here next to the villager breeder. I had a couple of little holes in the ground right here where I kept extra villagers. So that way, in case people wanted to start villages of their own, they could come by, or I could deliver villagers to them. So this here used to actually be 5 farmers, but somehow I ended up not covering them, and they all ended up turning into witches when lightning struck, because that's what happens to villagers when they're struck by lightning. So I went ahead and named them because I decided I want to keep them, and here they'll stay until somebody lets them out, which I would highly recommend not doing. They're mean. Witches are mean. Mean! Okay. So moving this way, I went ahead and let's see, so the pathways was something I put in much later in the series. I decided to try and kind of terraform this area a little bit more, do some landscaping, and still kind of try and keep with that seaside theme. So I kept that with the sandstone and the sand, but at the same time it's still kind of a lush and grown area. So all of these trees I built by myself, and to varying degrees of success. I like them. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. Those trees I built by hand. So did all of the little bushes and rocks and flowers, and all around this area and the pathways. So the night before the server tour, I was scrambling to try and do some last minute things and figure out what was going to go where. And this whole space right here was empty. So a wonderful, lovely person by the name of Mar came by and ended up building this little water temple here, which ended up being absolutely beautiful, and I love the spruce that's coming off of it, and the vines, and the water curtains. I kind of have a thing for water curtains. I think they're absolutely beautiful, and they're really fun to fly through as well. I also made a fair amount of diamonds on this server by selling things and helping people do things, and just gifts from other people and whatnot. So I decided that it would be fun but also incredibly gaudy to build an entire 6 beacon diamond beacon. You can make these beacon bases out of iron or gold or emerald, but no, not good enough. I had to make mine out of diamonds, so it is what it is, and I thought it would fit in the water temple to basically show off how wealthy this area had become over time through its trading with neighbors and whatnot. So I had a hard time figuring out what to put in this space right here. This is actually where my really derpy tree farm was, so it's basically just like a long line of dirt that I would use to grow trees. But I realized that that was not going to fit here, so instead I took that down and replaced it with kind of a market area. So I figured ships could come in across the ocean and dock here and be able to sell all the different flowers and dyes and dyed products that come from this area, and which gave this place its wealth. So I have banners and examples of banners. So like again, we have the one from the maze, and we have the Charged Creeper Farm and my banner, and then I have a couple of other friends' banners as well, just because it's kind of fun, and I enjoyed playing with people here. And so then we have the different colored beds and the wools. We have the different kinds of glass and the dyes themselves. Obviously, this is not all of them, but you know, that was what the storage area was for. And then we have the actual flowers themselves for sale. So as this area grew more and more wealthy, they decided to rely more on themselves and giving themselves the credit for all of their good fortune. And over time, they completely forgot their humble beginnings and where they came from across the sea, and forgot about Our Lady of the Ocean and the kindness that she showed them. Even though they erected this water temple, which I'll look at a little bit more in detail, Our Lady of the Ocean ended up growing angry and decided that she was going to have her revenge on the people of this area. And so she ended up sending a gigantic tidal wave to destroy all that they had built. And this is what I literally spent pretty much the entire year building. There are about 20,000 glass blocks in here, each placed by hand, and this was quite the project. This is, again, I'm really bad when it comes to planning, and so some of this was, a lot of this was just kind of trial and error and seeing what looked normal and trying not to make it too uniform, with, you know, varying degrees of success. So you can see, you know, there's, you know, straight lines that are going up there, which otherwise I, you know, may not have done if I had known better. But at the same time, you can also see that there are lapis blocks under here. Lapis, and more lapis, and all the lapis. And I became known on the server as the person who literally needed all the lapis. I asked people if they had any extra, and I told them that I wanted all of it, and basically, yeah, that's exactly what I meant. I wanted all of the lapis. So there are about, let's grab some more rockets here. There are about 9,300 lapis blocks that I placed as well. And a good friend of mine, Matthew982, ended up doing a whole ton of trading in order to get me probably about 2 shulkers full of lapis blocks, which is quite a lot for those people who aren't familiar with shulker boxes. But anyway, so he is a huge what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know the word I'm looking for. Anyway, he is my hero, pretty much. And yeah, it was awesome. And other people donated as well. Like, it wasn't just him and it wasn't just me. So it was kind of fun to have it be a community effort. So I went ahead and basically did the back of the wave first, and then did the front of it. And then afterwards went through and detailed out the corner pieces with the white glass and the cobwebs. I could have spent hours and hours and hours continuing to work on this thing. But I don't think I would ever be fully satisfied with the outcome, and so I decided to call it here, and I'm happy with how it turned out. It was a very fun project. So then we have these houses that are over here by the seaside, again inspired by some of the beach houses that I've seen and stayed in, and I absolutely love the ocean. I love the water, in case anybody can't tell. But yeah, so let's see. So some of these houses are furnished, some of them aren't, depending on how much time I had. So this one has like a little dining area, or kind of just basically a seating area, whatever. And then we have one small bedroom here. There's a small little stable that has some horses and a donkey. Some you know, potted plants. And then up here we have like a little bookshelf. We have a seating area where people can look out at the scenery or at their impending doom. Another bedroom in here. And then another set of stairs, because it's always good to have more than one exit. So like these 3 houses were pretty much completely done. These 2, I got the exteriors done, but didn't really get around to doing a whole lot on the inside. I managed to do a little bit of landscaping, just to kind of make it look nice in this area. Yeah. Put some trees out here. This is the unfinished library that this was one of the projects that I kept meaning to do, but I never actually got around to it, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't, but maybe I'll go through some time and actually finish putting in all the bookshelves. I got a bunch of those for my birthday, which is great, and I would like to thank Stina Rose for all of these. And yeah, so this was going to be a grand library, and I was going to put all of my enchanted books in there that I got from either villager trading or AFK fishing. And why horse? Thank you. I was walking on the fence post for some reason. Okay. Yep, and it had a fancy roof, which I kind of borrowed from another build that I did a while back. And of course, a second exit. And because I love horses so much, I didn't have enough room in just the regular stables, and ended up making another kind of open area for them. So then I ended up constructing a couple of flower farms in this area, and one of the things that I learned very early on is flowers will only bloom basically where they show up. So this spot that has a pink tulip will only make pink tulips. This spot that has an allium will only ever make alliums, and so on and so forth. And so that's one of the reasons why I built multiple flower farms, was to be able to get all the different kinds of flowers, so that if people wanted to buy them, they could. Alright, so let's take this guy, who ended up being one of my, not the fastest horse, but one of the faster ones. And the last thing I guess I will show you are these two things. So there is a member on the server by the name of Grurim, who has a thing for obelisks. And he's made a number of different ones from different materials, whether that be from, from slime or from diorite, and they're always some sort of, it's always, some fun prank at somebody's base. And so Gru decided to get creative and ended up building me a water obelisk, and I actually love it so much that I decided to keep it. I kind of wanted to move it somewhere else, but I never got around to that. But at the same time, it's just really neat looking and really fun. And this one I think was pretty easy for him to build, because all he had to do was put the glass at the top, and then the water would just run down, as opposed to having to place a whole ton of different blocks like he did with other ones. So yeah, it's just kind of neat and unique and not something you see every day, so I decided to keep it. So then lastly we come to the water temple. This was kind of the first, aside from the storage area, this was the first big build that I did in this area. And I wanted it to be kind of large and regal, and on this kind of, rocky ocean terrain. And basically kind of inspire a sense of wonder and of perhaps worship or something like that. And yeah, so this took me quite a while to construct, and it was a fun experiment, again with a lot of trial and error. These pillars used to be just straight up sandstone, and then a friend, Angel of Light, came over and he's like, well, what if you try this design? And he built up one of the pillars, and I absolutely loved it, and ended up replicating it on the other 3 sides as well. We have our little altar in the middle, but we also have some water pillars that are coming down. The glass panes are meant to kind of bring a little bit more color and light to the area, some sort of magic of some sort maybe. And then I brought some clerics over, because what is a temple without its priests? And there was one night where me and Stina Rose ended up having a lot of fun with one of our moderators' heads, and we ended up putting them onto a bunch of different villagers, and that may have inspired her to turn my storage area purple. So yeah, okay. But it was still a lot of fun. And why the skeleton horses are in here, I don't know. I kind of wanted a place to keep them that wasn't with the rest of the horses. It was very interesting kind of putting the water curtains on there as well, and trying to figure out what worked and what didn't, and learned a fair amount about like making water go in the certain directions where you want it to go, and at the same time, if you screw up water, then oftentimes you end up having to start over and do it all over again. So trying to replicate the the patterns on all of the different sides was quite a task, but I'm really, again, really happy with how it turned out. So I hope that you have enjoyed the tour of my base and some of the other builds that I've made here on the Welsknight Patreon server. I'm kind of sad to see everything go. I mean, there was still a whole lot more that I could do, and there was a lot more area to build, a lot of potential for things to grow. But at the same time, not only is the server lagging and kind of acting up, but I am also looking forward to a fresh start. I have some plans for this next season, and I do hope to do a series on what I'll be doing in the next season and the people that I'm working with, and I think it's going to be a really great time. And so it's going to be probably a few weeks or so before that really comes out and before we can get started. But until then, I want again, until then, I would like to thank you for spending some time with me and taking the time to see some of the things that I've managed to do in the last year. And I hope that you have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye!